Hey there, welcome to episode 60 of the Quaggling Sand audio program. I'm your host, as always, Dan Hugo, brought to you today, this first day of 2025, January 1, Wednesday, 2025. It's 3:13, just rolled over, 3:13 p.m., another later in the day recording session. Honestly, I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I do have a couple of topics, but they were like, these aren't really New Year topics. I'll try to be a little bit more optimistic. One of them was going to be about when I was working with Intel Corporation as an employee, when we discovered a unfixable, and Intel is famous for these, an unfixable hardware issue in one of the parts that Intel had just started selling, the Quark embedded SoC, system on a chip. It's not really a microcontroller, not by any stretch, but I'll save that for another time. This week, this being the first, well, I'll get to that in a second. Just some random stuff. I didn't even write out anything. I'm just going to wax lethargic on the new year, 2025. So hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to find the episode description, which contains the very brief show notes for this week and only the two shameless self-promotion links for this episode. No other links. If you're curious, if you've never heard Quaggling Sand before, welcome. You missed the first 60 episodes, and hey, this is episode 60, but we start at 0 because that's what software engineers do. The Quaggling Sand name comes from a term I coined when I was very young. Someday I'll find out what the actual answer is to this, but it's not important. I was not aware that someone had established the pins and needles label. So quaggling sand, when one of your limbs becomes not numb anymore, when circulation returns, maybe you've been sitting on your foot or laying on your arm or something. So yeah, quaggling sand, it's random stories, very self-serving. I don't know if this audio program will ever have guests. It's mostly stories from the past, but eventually I'll run out of those, so we'll see. Who knows? So no real structure here, just self-promotion and self-indulgence. On those notes, the show notes. The summary for this week's episode: another week, another year, the first of all of my audio programs published in the new year. In fact, how about a random collection of things to kick off 2025? So there you go. I do publish 4 audio programs each week. This is the first one of the new year. The shameless self-promotion links in the links section: buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. You need not spend any money at these. I'm not going to stop you if you do. The buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page has some little biographical information about me. It has links to all of my audio programs. It has, by the way, Hugo Floss might be making a comeback in a different format. I've mentioned this, I think, previously. I don't know if it was here. Spotify deleted all of Hugo Floss as it was. I was going to try to bring that back, but my co-host is not totally into it, so that's fine. So Hugo Floss will take another form. Also, the domain went away and has changed. We add an M to the end, but you'll get all that later. I think I have a link to that. And we have some links to my favorite coffee beans and some other stuff. So the profile is interesting there. It's kind of a free-form link tree, etc. And I don't have to maintain it. Ko-fi.com is good for short updates. So, and some other stuff. But they don't really support the other feature I use on Buy Me a Coffee now, the Buy Me an Update micro episode that I publish on Monday mornings. Gives you a quick look at the previous week of audio programs. It's, once again, very self-serving. And then whatever is coming up next. So ko-fi.com/DanHugo, there will be some micro textual updates. They do support audio links, but they don't support linking to audio on Buy Me a Coffee. Imagine that. So there you go. So now the totally free form, I never do this. All of my episodes, unless I have a guest, and even then I do have some questions written down just in case I don't have anything to talk about, or if they don't. But that's been a while. So normally I write stuff down. But today is just going to be, okay, so it's 2025. Now what? I will tell you, just the other day, I encountered first of all, it looked interesting, and it was a YouTube recommended video. It was about uncrackable encryption. And I know YouTube, I guess they're changing their policy, so I don't even know what the latest is. Who can say? But there was no labeling, there was no indication, but there was a dead giveaway right up front. So two people begin chatting about encryption technologies and one-time pads and Shannon information theory and all that. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, pretty standard stuff. And then I realized, I rewound it, or I scrubbed to the beginning, and I said, did I not hear? Nope, they did not introduce themselves or mention each other's names in any way. Why? Artificial intelligence. They clearly used, I'm going to guess, Google Notebook LM. Google Notebook LM has a feature where you give it some text or you point it towards an article or something and it reads through it, and then it will generate a two-person conversation about that content. So their audio was 14 minutes and some seconds, and mine was 24 minutes, but I have a feeling if you just keep generating, you'll get longer and shorter and whatnot. I haven't really played with Notebook LM so much. I've thought about like using it sarcastically. Like, is this really going to work out? Because it was a completely sterile conversation. Google has gotten good at injecting emotional, intonation, pauses, and pitching up. You know, like if you ask a question, so how does that work? Instead of how does that work? So they've gotten really good at that over the years. They first started this. They had a really interesting demo for a phone support feature they were going to roll out where the computer voice would actually pause. It would say I'm not quite sure. Unlike Amazon's products, which continue to suck. So I got a bunch of Amazon products when I was working at Intel. So I'm not even going to say the names. I have a tablet. The Fire tablets are good. They're cheap, like they're super cheap. So I use a Fire tablet to watch YouTube videos. It's basically placed between my keyboard and my monitor where all the cool stuff happens. And that way I can be watching something and not worry about having headphones or if I have to reboot my computer, which I usually do, when I update some stuff. So I can just let that play on its own. My computer can go to sleep even, and I can still be watching or listening. I occasionally listen to music. I have, what else do I have? I have Echo. I have some Echo Plus speakers that I got forever ago. They're fine. Can you hear them? Yeah. So my favorite thing is after the Amazon products have been around for a decade, I think it's been almost a decade, they still can't do voice recognition, or they can't tell if you're speaking to them or about them. So they're doing no context awareness. Amazon continues to show itself for what it really is. Completely anyway, I could complain about Amazon all day. They're hopefully they're going to fail soon. I don't know what soon means, but they've run their course, just like the big companies in general. Facebook, of course, needs to go away. Meta needs to go away. Google has demonstrated that it is not a healthy part of the universe. Netflix, I don't really care. These are the FANG companies: Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Of course, Facebook is now Meta, Google is now Alphabet, and Amazon's still Amazon, and Apple is still Apple. I've not liked Apple since I worked there. And Netflix, I don't really care. I had a subscription to the Netflix DVDs back in 2001, 2002, when I first moved to Phoenix. I actually I had a subscription when I lived in Sunnyvale. When I moved to Phoenix, I took the subscription with me, and I think I had 2 DVDs sitting there for like 6 months. I just never watched them, paying for the subscription. So I bailed on Netflix, spent all my time trying to figure Phoenix out. That was a lost cause. So I've worked for Apple, but I've never really wanted to work for the FANG companies. When I worked for Apple, it was a little bit more scrappy, a little bit. I worked there in the Newton days, and I also worked there during the PowerPC transition. I worked for a Mac clone company called UMax, and that was enough Apple. PowerPC, by the way, very cool system, like software model and whatnot. They just couldn't keep up on the end user performance. The Intel clocks Clocks, Clocks. They had it worked out. They had it so that they could outclock everybody else, and it's too bad. I'm always on the side of AMD, so hopefully that will work out for them. So Amazon sucks. The AI generated content though on YouTube, coming back to that, I wasn't shocked. I mean, it's pretty easy to tell. Just before I started recording this, I clicked on something on YouTube. I was setting up, getting the microphone and making sure everything's working. And by the way, that's one of those lessons you hopefully learn the first time. If you ever create something that's kind of live or stream, not necessarily streaming live on the internet, but you're doing it in real time. Like you can always type some text and then backspace and whatnot. But if you're speaking into a microphone or looking into a camera or both, you can't just go, oh, hang on, let me backspace that. You can technically, but it's just not the same, right? So I try to prepare ahead of time. So things like, testing 1, 2, 3, that sounds very cliche, but it is essential. It's an essential step. Make sure your audio is working. Make sure your camera is on. Make sure your lighting is correct. Those are hard to fix after. So a backup microphone if you can, etc. So I was setting stuff up, and I was having this thing play, and it was a horrendous AI-generated voice. It was profoundly ethnic for some reason, and it was just reading text on the screen. So that is, they had a YouTube video. They had a clip show, so it was pulling excerpts from other programs, other YouTube content, and then it would put up a comment on over everything in text, and then it would just read that in this heavily accented voice. No kidding. This is not a human. So the rise of headless content, they call it. There's no person speaking. You can do an AI voice. You can narrate it yourself. I'm basically audio podcasts, audio programs like this are headless content, right? You could take my audio and put it under a slideshow. You could put it under movie clips. You can do whatever you want. And I do know people do that with video games. So they'll talk about something while they're streaming a video game or while they're recording it. And okay, sure. Now people call podcasts just about anything. And first of all, I think the name podcast is a hanger on. Yes, Steve Jobs thought it was a cool idea. And what's his name? Adam Curry. Adam Curry, former video VJ on MTV, conceived of the notion, hey, it'd be cool if I could just make my own audio and publish it on the internets. And yes, Dave Weiner added the stupid enclosure enclosure tag to RSS 2.0, which is already annoying. RSS 1.0 had some cool ideas, RDF and so on. But when Curry and Jobs got together, I think they were on stage at one of the Macworlds, and said, hey, look, you can actually subscribe to this RSS feed and download audio programs and listen to them on your iPod. So podcatcher software, the whole going through and finding your favorite episodes from RSS feeds and the RSS distribution model and all that. It's all interesting. I think it's due for a modernization wave, but the name the name podcast comes from that legacy, that connection to Apple's iPod. The iPod itself is basically sunsetting. I don't know if they still sell them even. Digital audio player. You can play it on your phone. You can purchase a really high quality, which basically means really good DACs, digital to analog converters for the audio. So when you plug in your high quality headphones or plug it into a high quality speakers of some sort, you will have a high quality analog signal to drive them. Excuse me. So yeah, DACs. It's all about the DACs. So the notion of a pocketable, purpose-built MP3 player or audio, but first of all, if you're playing MP3s on such a thing, they either have to be 192 kilobits per second or better, or you're playing FLAC or other lossless compression stuff. So that's one thing. But if you're listening to podcasts, you're not listening to them on that. You're not spending super large amounts of money. Super large, yeah. You're not paying big money for high-end high quality DAC pocket audio player, mobile portable audio player, to hear me talk to you. So you're playing them on your phone, you're playing them on your computer, probably more likely on your phone through some Bluetooth headphones, earbuds, whatever. So the notion is good. The notion is fine. There are some things about discovery. There are some things, and Adam Curry continues to work in this space. They have the Podcast Index website. They've added some extensions to the namespace, which is interesting, but doesn't have to be enforced. So they have a collection of tools and publishing platforms and so on that support the extensions. The extensions are things like don't copy the audio. Like, I think they call it the lock bit. So you can share the links, the references, but you should not be copying the audio around. So always use the origin. I think that's what that means. It's what it should mean. So you should be able to control the source of the audio so that the audio itself is not floating around the internet. Why? Why is that important? If you want to edit it, you want to make sure that I got to fix a fact. I got to correct a problem. I got to change the ad read, whatever it is. You need to add. Well, you should be able to publish it at a single point of authority. And then all the RSS feeds that are floating around the indexes can be fine, but they can just point back to the origin. So you don't have to say, now the copy that's floating around, who knows where it is. Now, I think that's generally what happens, but I don't know if that's guaranteed. Like, I don't know if Apple copies audio to their own servers or something. And this happens with cached news feeds. Facebook is famous for this. So if you've ever seen an image on Facebook and then you go to the website, it's a completely different image. So somebody has posted something. They're using the what is it called? Open Graph. The Open Graph image tag in the header of the HTML document points to the image that will be used in a preview card, right? So like, what is this link about? Well, here's the title. Here's the URL, the authoritative URL. Here's a picture, and here's the description. So those are the key 4 elements, and that's how you make a Facebook post, right? Facebook will go over and read those 4 tags from the head of the web page, and it will create a little card, a preview, that they can post in your news feed or on your wall or whatever they call it nowadays. Twitter does something very similar. They have Twitter cards, but they'll also default to the Open Graph cards. OG : namespace tags. So what happens if you change the image on your news article or you change the title or something? Well, Facebook has read that and cached it. And to their credit, they don't want to slam your website every time somebody wants to see a preview. And that's a problem on Mastodon right now. The Mastodon DDoS attack. If you post a link on Mastodon, it creates this preview card, but then it sends the link to however many other servers, and it starts regenerating it so you can take down websites. It's called the Slashdot effect. Kids today don't know about that, though, so we get to relive it. It's like people saying, if only there was a way to prevent cars from moving. And somebody says, well, they invented brakes 100 years ago. Oh, I wasn't around for that. Okay, I'll have to look into that. It's almost that silly. So podcasting, the reason I think the name should go away, though, we don't need to get too technical about Open Graph stuff, but Facebook doesn't always update their cache. So they've cached an image and a title and so on. But if you change your content, you need to tell Facebook to reread it, but you have to know Facebook has read it. And so you have to actually keep track of that. And you're like, I didn't ask for this. So it's kind of a pain. Anyway, so the iPod, personally, I think podcast has become too generic. People create YouTube content. They call it a podcast, and it's actually like a little TV show. They got multiple cameras. They got a producer. They got a director. They got a booking agent. They got couches, like a whole set. They're doing multi-camera shots. They're doing reaction shots. This is a full-on production. That's not a podcast anymore. So I usually use the term audio program for the stuff that I create. Audio program. And this is an episode of an audio program. So one episode is an episode. A collection of episodes under the same audio program title are an audio program. So podcast has become too generic and too not specific enough. Well, it's too generic, but it's used for everything. It's no longer about iPods, so the inspiration for the name is faded. And I think people should be more. And the same goes for a TV show. You're not creating shows for TV anymore. So they literally call it YouTube content, right? So nobody's saying TV shows. Nobody says, oh, we got a TV show on YouTube. If it was originally a TV series, they put it on YouTube, they refer to it that way. But YouTube, you're not creating for TV unless people are watching YouTube on their TV, which, then you kind of are. So yeah, who really knows? Who knows anything? But these words don't really matter anymore. So whatever. I do think that RSS needs to return to RDF, which was the underpinnings of RSS 1.0, created at Netscape. I think it was when I was actually working there. It was RDF Site Syndication, RSS. And then Dave Weiner said, we don't need all this RDF crap. So he made it just pure XML. And RSS 2.0, which he became the de facto maintainer of, I guess, is really simple syndication. Yeah. So the nice thing about RDF is the graph structure and the name spacing is a little bit more, I'm not going to say strict, but it's a little bit more defined. I mean, I don't know if Podcast Index has created an XSD, an XML schema description that adds the additional namespace and tags and whatever so I don't know what they've accomplished in their adding these things, but you can create RSS with RDF and make use of XML that is RDF friendly. That's already been solved. But there's been talk of publishing RSS as JSON or as in other formats. And RDF already had that accomplished long ago. So you can publish JSON LD, you can publish YAML, you can publish N3, you can publish Turtle, you can publish XML, of course, you can publish, what else? Oh, you can, of course, render it to HTML, right? You can do that with XML too. Anyway, so I think there's some need for maybe not a revolution, but a little bit of evolution to some uses of technology that have been around for a while. And in fact, were the inspiration for RSS when it first began, except that we take what works and what doesn't, and we move forward with what works, and we learn from what doesn't. It's a crazy idea. I have a whole entire audio program called FFS Talk about exactly that. So what else? I'm living in Vegas, of course. I've talked about Vegas stuff now and then. I think I've mentioned I moved here after a house fire. The excitement that was. When I moved, I had less stuff, which is fun. I continue to have less stuff. I do not own a couch. Sometimes I miss having a couch, but then most times I don't. I don't even have a chair. So I have a standing desk. I don't have a chair for sitting at my computer because standing desk. I don't have a chair to just relax and read. I don't have a chair to have a coffee. I don't have a chair to sit at a table. I don't have a table. So a lot of the things that I lost back in the fire days, I didn't really bother to replace for a couple of reasons. First of all, I put all my stuff in storage that was not fire damaged or smoke damaged, or those are probably the big two. So as much as I could fit in the storage thing that I rented for what was it? Fire was at the beginning of April, like April 8th or April 13th, one of those. And in 2013, moved to Vegas in July, mid-July. So whatever that was, it June, July. So two and a half months. So for 2.5 months, had all my stuff in storage. Whatever could fit in storage is what I kept. I left the rest of the stuff. The home I was in was condemned anyway. I'm surprised I was able to save that much. It was, in fact, mostly smoke damage because the fire didn't move all the way through my part of the duplex. So, yay. But things like a dinner table or a couch or a coffee table or things like that, I left behind. So not enough space. So got the essentials, the computer, the bed. No. I left the bed. The bed was smoky. What did I take? Oh, but I was able to save like clothing and stuff. Those go through the wash a little bit better. And so threw all that stuff in and moved to Vegas in middle of July of 2022. And it's been an adventure ever since. But it does make it easier to move. Most of my things are on wheels now, or they break down to movable sizes. I was, excuse me, when I was moving into where I live now, first of all, I was not kicked out, but I was, it's called what is it called? A no cause what is it called? It's no cause something. Production by a street. No cause lease cancellation or something. So I was given a renewal note. I lived in this apartment so after I moved to Vegas, then I moved into an apartment. That's a different story for some time in the future. Moved to an apartment, lived there for 7 years, was traveling around the world for Intel, was doing all, whatever I was doing here in Vegas and beyond. So I get the renewal notice. I go to the leasing office to renew, and they said, oh, you didn't get your notice that we've canceled this. And I was like, huh? And they said, yeah, you have a no cause renewal cancellation or something like that. And I said, what? And they said, it's not bad. You did nothing wrong. We're just not going to offer you a renewal option on your lease. So you have to move. And I was like, that sucks. That's pretty awful. It turned out to be generally a good thing because the place where I used to live, the building in which I lived, and I don't know if it was directly above, but it was like in the same hallway, one floor up. There was recently a murder-suicide family problem, so that's always a bad thing. So that would have been a bad scene, obviously. I was getting 75% package theft at one point because it's by a school. So I believe students, if they were bored after school, they'd say, oh, look, the UPS truck or the FedEx truck is over at those apartments. Let's go shopping. So I was losing a lot of stuff. The leasing office was always, after they went through a few staffing changes, they were always giving me, and everybody, too many packages, you can't store them here. Because they did eventually accept package deliveries at the leasing office instead of being left at the door. But yeah, when I first moved there, when I first lived there, and then I started traveling for Intel, the whole office staff they would say things like, oh, where were you? Where are you coming back from? Or what's your next trip? And so on. So they would actually be humans and normal people. And they almost seemed excited to have packages like, oh yeah, we got your stuff here, this and that. So they were very human and nice, and we can't have that. So they went away. So when I had to move, I had less stuff to move still. So that's probably good. I learned after 7 years that I had more stuff than I thought, and that I was not good at planning a move. So that's something I will hopefully not need to relearn again anytime really soon. But I do have less stuff. So I moved into a place that was very nearby, and that is sort of a studio layout. So where before I had like a separate bedroom and then a kitchen right in the middle and so on. So the floor plan of the current place is a little bit easier to sort of have a home office, and then my quote unquote bedroom. There is a dividing wall, but it's not even the full height of the place. So tall ceilings, not quite as tall dividing wall. So technically I could throw things over it, but better deal. But I have less stuff than I used to. And that was always fun. Like I owned a washer and dryer. I owned the couch and the coffee table, and there was a ton of stuff in the garage and everything. And so all that just kind of left behind. So like, time to move, time to hit the reset button. So if I ever do move again, I've often said, if there's another fire, I'm just going to move to Dublin. I'll be done with everything. I don't need to move any of this stuff. But anyway, so not having a chair or a table or anything, my work environment tends to be, it's either I'm standing at my computer doing this or that, creating a podcast episode or an audio program episode, or reading or typing away on some various projects and initiatives and so on. Of course, I can have a video call if there's an online meeting of some sort. So all that I can accomplish on the work side. And then on the sleep side, I basically just have a bed. I don't even have a bed frame anymore. Yes, full bachelor mode. No question about that. So the bed is on the floor. It's a memory foam mattress. It's beginning to show its age. I've had it for about 4 years, 5 years. It might be 5 years old. I don't know if they should last 1 million years or 1 year, but it's starting to show some age one of these days. But for the moment, that's about it. I really didn't say, oh, I must replace my bedroom with throw pillows and comforters and so on. So no bed frame, no side tables, nothing like that. Very simple, because as I mentioned, I moved to this place, and there were two people that offered to help move, and of course, they never materialized. Welcome to Vegas. So I didn't say, yeah, I'll take you up on it, because I kind of knew, like, yeah, you're offering that to be nice, but you're not going to show up anyway. So I didn't plan on them showing up. Then this was the best part. We're right about 30 minutes now. So, I don't want to go on too long. I'm just rambling for the new year. They, makes me laugh. So I had to put a deposit down on this apartment, and not this one, the person that was living there at the time was to move out, but it was going to be 6 weeks later. Yeah, I think it was going to be 6 weeks. So I got a check for the deposit. Who writes checks anymore? Got a check for the deposit. Everything's all set. I go and visit my parents for almost 6 weeks. And then I think it was 5 weeks. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to start getting ready to head back, move into this new place. And I had visited the place, and I had mapped out, like, okay, I can park the U-Haul over here, and then you go through here, and then the place is on the first floor, so it was very convenient. So 19 days, or no, it might have been 11 days. I think it was 11 days before. Oh, because it was October 19th. So 11 days before, I get a phone call from the leasing manager of this apartment. Hey, the person that was supposed to move out isn't. So then she asked the best question I've ever heard from someone who shouldn't have the job they have. Were you still interested in living here? Like, it's 11 days. Do you think I was like, I'm going to wait to the last minute and then pick some other place to live? And her name was Aubrey, by the way, a name I hope I will forget. So I said, well, yeah, it's only 11 days, so I don't really have any other plans. I was kind of planning to move into the place that I put the deposit down on. Well, I can try to find you another place. I'm like, yeah, that'd be nice. So I get a call back. Okay, there's another place. It's on the second floor. It's different floor plan, approximately the same size. They gave me a little, the rent was slightly higher, not much, 2 digits of difference, but they gave me kind of a move-in bonus to offset the obvious silliness. I'll be kind. So, okay, okay, that's fine. Everything's fine. So I come here, and I really had no sense, because this is now in a different part of the building and so on. Turns out it's as far away from where you can put a U-Haul truck as possible. It's on the second floor. The elevators are set. So it took me like 2.5 days to move everything into this new place. It was exhausting. I don't know if I could do that today. I would have to train for it, because just me moving every single thing. So once again, having things on wheels, having things in same size boxes helped. I don't have universally same size boxes, but I will tell you, here's your tip of the day. When you're moving, pack things in the same size boxes. Get yourself some pallet wrap, which is a big giant roll of saran wrap. Wrap those boxes up, and super easy to hand truck out, in and out. Put them in the U-Haul. The hand truck will fit on the little ramp that you can pull out of the back of the vehicle. So they don't tip over. You put them in the truck. They stick together. It's really the only way to go. It's one of my crowning achievements in life I didn't read about that. I figured it out. But I mean, once you've worked in a warehouse job or something, you're like, hey, this pallet wrap stuff is pretty convenient. What if? And the rest is history. So that's something I would always recommend. But when I finished moving, I still had stuff in a U-Haul storage thing. Anyway, it was a thing I don't look forward to recreating. So I'm hopefully going to stay here for a little bit longer. In the meantime, there's a bunch of Vegas stuff that I'm trying to accomplish. I've talked about this before. We have our Innovate for Vegas Foundation. It's a nonprofit public charity. It's a Nevada corporation. So I'm the managing director. You know what's funny? Think about this when you see the technical or accepted definitions of executive director and managing director. Executive director is essentially a figurehead for special projects. They're the head of the board of directors. So it's okay. There's nothing wrong with being the executive director, but the managing director, and you can look this up. You can look this up for yourself. The managing director is the person who runs things day to day. They're the ones doing the work. So if you're a director on the board of directors of a small, maybe a little public charity, a Nevada nonprofit corporation, if you're the managing director, that means you're actually working. And I always I always introduce myself to people because they'll be, oh, I'm the executive director of this. And I'm like, I'm the managing director of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation because I actually do work. So that usually rubs people the wrong way right away, which is good. Because what I've found in this little nonprofit adventure is a lot of people talk a lot and a lot of people are waiting for other people, or they don't want to be a part of a conversation unless it suits them, and so on. So people who wear the public charity hat or civic volunteerism hat, now I'm not saying that they're not doing something. They may be doing great things in their locality, but there's a certain aspect to what you're doing. It could be a force multiplier if you collaborate with others. And this is the entire notion that I've been trying to work on, mostly because Las Vegas's culture of innovation needs a lot of work, but also because the entire notion of civic volunteerism has taken a dip. Some of it is due to the Code for America rug pull on their brigade program, which was a network of civic volunteer brigades that was spread around the country. I think the number was 88 at one point, and now it's not. So the people that were doing that, the legacy of that is interesting. But if you cannot sustain that, if people are starting to fall off, they're like, this is not really working anymore, or there's no more network to lean on, or there's no more Code for America to take credit for all of our work for us and then give us the finger when they pull the rug. So a lot of these organizations are either stalled, or they've gone quiet, or who knows if if they want to pursue anything. So a lot of disillusionment, a lot of disenfranchisement, of course, when the rug was pulled. So to me, there really needs to be a sort of a, hey, you know what? Instead of saying there has to be a hierarchy and there has to be we have to answer to some top-down infrastructure and we have to join an organization, which some people are trying to reimagine today. So, let's try the same thing. Let's have a central entity and applications to join. I'm like, man, if you want to volunteer your time for something and you got to spend some of your volunteer time filling out applications, there better be something there for you. And really all it is people that get together on Zoom calls. I went to their holiday mixer and it was, my comment was, those are 81 minutes I won't get back, because that's how I am. But yeah, so our Innovate for Vegas stuff, I'm hoping will be a bottom-up platform where we can start from the bottom, move to the top. There's a song about that somewhere. So work on projects, work on initiatives, connect with other organizations. Do I have to be in Vegas to innovate for Vegas? Absolutely not. You can innovate for Vegas without being in Vegas, and you don't even have to visit Vegas. It can be all virtual. But all of our initiatives, rather than being like, hey, we're open fill-in city, open city, or we're a hack for city, or whatever the name of a particular cohort is. They may be a nonprofit, like we are an actual 501c3 and whatnot. You can go through them, but the expectation for this other thing I mentioned, they expect people to be former Code for America brigades, and then they will eventually open up the applications to non-former brigades. So you already have to be existing in this infrastructure. You may not have to be a 501c3, but you're supposed to be a fiscally sponsored entity, or whatever the case is. They've got a list of requirements. And to me, this disenfranchises individuals or people who just want, like, oh man, it'd be cool to do something to fix this local problem. And then, so we can't join that thing because we don't have it's only 2 or 3 people. We don't have a mentor program and this other stuff that they require. We just want to work on civic volunteer, community elevation efforts. So my approach is, yeah, you should be able to, A, you should be able to do whatever you want in that regard. And B, you should be able to discover others that are doing something similar. Now, if somebody in city, place, locality is like, man, I wish we had better software for people who use public transit, because we have a public transit system here, but the software is awful. Well, maybe the 3 of us can make that better. And so if they looked out on the internet, they might find the Innovate for Vegas Foundation's Open Transit project. They might find it. but we're pursuing this thing, which I call Project ACT, the Autonomous Cohort Tessellation. The tessellation is a mosaic, right? So a tile wall. Imagine that the Open Transit Initiative from the Innovate for Vegas Foundation is a tile on this mosaic, tessellation. So if somebody were to walk up to this tile wall, this mosaic, and say, oh, look, there's an open transit project. That looks interesting. So it could manifest as literally a visual iconography of different projects and different initiatives, projects, different cohorts, or if you're a nonprofit or if you're just 2 or 3 people, why not, right? So there could be a mosaic of cohorts, 1 or more people doing interesting things. There could be a tessellation of different types of projects. There could be a tessellation of all projects. This helps with normal people to see that, oh, look, there is a lot of stuff going on. And the news of the day for the last couple of days has been H-1B visas and that there aren't enough smart people in America and so on and so on. So that happens here in Vegas. People like me are saying, you're not focusing the people that are already here on innovation. So you're talking about importing talent. So the greater Vegas area has the same exact view as your Elon Musk's, which is there are not enough people here. We need to bring more people in from other places. The impact of the greater Vegas area would be very different from compared to a national scale. But the take home is if you don't know what you have, if you don't know who you have and what they're working on, then you might come away with the sense that, hey, if they're not in Silicon Valley, they don't exist. Okay. So the tessellation part of it is to advertise the existence of people doing interesting things. So the other thing is to discover other people doing things that are maybe compatible or in the general direction of what you're working on. Then the idea with ACT, Project ACT, not to be confused with ACT, which is a different thing and probably won't work. Project ACT is so discovery. Oh, look, there's a whole bunch of mosaics. Oh, look, there's something interesting over there. So then connect, communicate, collaborate. You should be able to contact each other. You should be able to discover what kind of effort they need, what kind of effort you need, right? So, okay, where are you in your project? Where are we? So we connect, we communicate. Like here's our mailing list, here's our blog, here's our issue database, right? You can figure out what's open, what the open issues are that need to be addressed, and you can figure out what works right now and what you can use. Everything's open source, hopefully, so that you can share, you can collaborate. Like, hey, the 3 people in city could collaborate on the open transit project at Innovate for Vegas Foundation, but there's no reason that has to be only in Vegas. In fact, by design, it doesn't have to be only in Vegas. So then people in city could say, oh, can we make a version of this for our city? And the answer is already yes. So now we have 3 more people that could work on the open transit project. And what if there are 2 other people in other city that say, we don't even have enough people to really work on it. Oh, look, there's Innovate for Vegas Foundation, and then 3 other people from maybe we should join in on that. And then now we have 5 people plus Innovate for Vegas Foundation. So instead of saying you have to fill out this form to join, you just say, oh, we have common pursuits, so we have common goals that we're trying to achieve something to fix a common problem. Maybe we should be able to collaborate. And being able to collaborate comes after you're able to discover that you even exist. And it turns out that Google is not really helpful in this regard because you just get too much noise, too many things as possible. Search engine results are not useful. I just want to find, is anyone else working on this? Bam, there it is. You look on GitHub, you look on GitLab. Even those, GitLab is enabling a certain decentralization of repositories now. So how do you connect people? And this all brings us back to RSS. So RSS, really simple syndication, allows you to be discoverable with your podcast or with your blog, right? Like, hey, here's my blog roll. Here's a list of blogs that I read, and you can discover all of them. And you can add some to your blog roll, and you can subscribe with your RSS reader and so on. And then you literally go and read the RSS feed of your blog roll, of your RSS subscriptions. You say, oh, okay, here's the latest from these 100 or 200 or 500 websites that I follow. And you only have to, your software can visit those sites every day or every 2 days or every 20 minutes or whatever you want. So if a site only changes once a week, just have it check twice a week. If it changes every hour, have it check every 30 minutes. So you can adjust that, and so you're not spending all your time visiting websites that are not changed and whatnot. So some of that work is done for you, and then it allows you to notify people through this pull mechanism, right? And you can do push also. And now the activity stream, activity pub stuff is kind of becoming interesting in that regard. But basically, it says I can automate my discovery process and I can read stuff when I want to because it's been published. And then I can also take the proactive step of discovering new feeds by looking at someone's blog roll. The nice thing about RSS version 1 and its sort of integration with, or it's based on RDF, Resource Description Framework, there's a whole bunch of stuff in RDF about the actual nature of connections between things. So you can actually embed blog roll links, and there's a thing called FOF, friend of a friend, and there's a thing called DOPE, description of a project. These will figure into our tessellation. So if you like an RSS file for your blog or for your podcast, by the way, YouTube does generate RSS files for your channel. Fun fact. So you can publish something like an RSS file, your feed. You can publish a FOF or a DOPE file, and these will describe the people and the organizations that you are friends with, your friend of a friend, and it can describe your projects that you're working on. And then if you say, hey, here's my DOPE file for my organization on GitHub or GitLab or some other derivative or just my website. We have a little spider that we're working on to go through and collect all these. It's not really new technology, so it's just implementing it so it integrates with everything. So we're not inventing anything. We're merely saying, hey, we can use stuff that worked 20 years ago and it still works and it's still in use today. Why don't we take that and use that as a discovery mechanism for individuals and little groups and cohorts and formal nonprofit corporations who want to collaborate, but who have no tools of discovery. And once you've discovered each other, now we automate the reading of issue databases and you can summarize things and you can say, how could I help with this project? I only have Friday afternoons. I can spend 4 to 6 hours. And we would say, well, you can spend 4 to 6 hours trying to figure out how to help. Or even better, we've already done that part. We've already created a collection of issues that need help, and we can have a summary here that matches what you're capable of doing, what your skill set is, what your interests are. And it might just be one project that you find, but it might be 10 or 100. And you're like, okay, well, I have 4 to 6 hours. Where can I best apply what I'm doing? Or what I can do. And Google searches are not up to the task. So with the advent of so many AI tools here, you can literally now summarize open issues. Say, here's a thing that we need help on. Here's a thing that needs some work. Here's a bug that needs to be fixed. And you can, as a human, say, okay, I am capable of doing these things. And it might come back and say, well, this one might be a fit for you. And it'll be a textual match, right? Or we can come up with some other possible match strategies. So that's a whole area of development that would automate and accelerate that connection step of the connect, communicate, collaborate. And then to fit in with all this, we're working on Agile for Volunteers, which is a workflow and tooling scheme based on the origins of Agile, which itself has origins in extreme programming and Scrum, but we're applying it to non-software projects, and we're applying it to volunteers who are not working 40 hours plus a week on something. They may come and go. So all this kind of fits together, trying to fix some problems that do exist to enable people to fix some problems of their own in their communities that also do exist. And right now, one of the solutions that people are discussing is maybe we should do the same thing that didn't work and that pulled the rug on us. Let's recreate that. And I don't agree with that. So that's in my nature, and that's how the new year is going to kick off for this 2025. And that is where I'm going to leave it, because we're coming up on an hour. And I didn't even write, my notes for today's episodes are totally free form, which I made as one word. That is 2 words, free form. And there's one bullet item, no notes for this one. And that's it. So I actually prefer having notes so that I have some sort of a plan for where I'm heading, and especially true if I have links to go along with what I intend to say. Occasionally, I will try to make a point that connects all of the bullet items together. I mean, not occasionally, usually. And occasionally it actually matters that I don't forget something and I don't leave something out. So freeform shows, I should do these more often because it's less, I'm not going to say stressful, but there is a certain amount of effort that goes into preparing the notes. It's not really a script. I do read bullet items often, but then I comment additionally. And what usually happens is I start commenting, and then the next bullet item is exactly what I just commented on. So I'm like, oh, well, that's clearly, that's what I was going to say. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what goes on here. Obviously, there's tons and tons and tons of stuff to talk about with only one person here in the room. So I can say whatever. Ideally, for 2025, my other audio programs, pardon me, Let's Innovate for Vegas, obviously about Innovate for Vegas Foundation. FFS Talk, which is a much more practical program about what works, what doesn't, and what we can do about it. I would love to have guests on. I've created one or two. I think we'll be on episode 58 this week for tomorrow. That's a lot of episodes about stuff that we could fix, but it's just me talking. So I often say that I'm seeding the ground. If somebody has heard an episode of FFS Talk and they would like to chime in, by all means, come on down. So we'll see if I can get that rolling. And then Cafe Genius Impresarios on Fridays. That started out life as a guest show. And the impresarios part really does imply, no, it's specific. Impresarios are supposed to be people that are doing stuff. And Cafe Genius is focused on our entrepreneurial innovation economy of the greater Vegas area and beyond. So that really lends itself nicely to people that are trying to be entrepreneurial, innovative, or both, to talk about some of the challenges. How do you accomplish things here in the greater Vegas area? The Vegas area is focused on the fun economy. They're trying to pursue economic diversification. You cannot simply sprinkle as though it were seasoning on a steak or sprinkles on a sundae and say, okay, now we are something else. So there will be a cultural shift that I don't believe they understand completely. The strengths of the greater Vegas area are different than the strengths of, say, Silicon Valley. And there have been utterances that Vegas is the next Silicon Valley, and I often respond and say, so is Silicon Valley the next Vegas? And I'll get this look like, how could they be the next Vegas? Like, yeah, I know. You can't just say that and it's true. So that's that. I'm going to leave it here for now. Thank you for listening. Thank you for 2024 wrapped up. All the episodes are still out there if you'd like to give a listen to any particular thing. Will I ever launch a website for Quaggling Sand? Yes. Will I commit to a launch date? No. But I will say that one of the initiatives we're working on for Innovate for Vegas Foundation is an information sharing platform for smarter smart cities. And I really think local content creation, we have tons of content creators in Vegas, mostly Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, some full on YouTube, talking about stuff in Vegas, mostly tourist oriented, but there's more. Discovery, connection, communication, collaboration, not just for civic volunteer projects. So we'll see if we can integrate that into our MyMuni platform, and we'll see what happens next. In the meantime, Happy New Year. Hopefully your year will go well. I have a feeling it's going to be interesting, and we'll leave it there. Take care.